morning, everybody. I'm excited to be here. And if you don't mind helping me out with a little bit of energy, that would be nice. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to talk to you today about content creation and types of videos. Some of this will be repetitive, but that's okay because we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. First is who am I and why should you listen to me? So I am Austin Southern. I'm 28 years old. I'm the operator of Monumental Powered by Place. And last year we did 94 deals, down from 111 in 2023. And we grossed $1,077,044 in commission. And in the last 30 days, we have grossed $234,742.62. But I ratified something before I came here, so it's $251,962. Which makes this the best 30-day period that I've had in my career so far. But before this, I had a small company serving a variety of local businesses, from car washes to escape rooms to mortgage lenders to actually several things, gyms, limousine company. And I worked with them to create, film, and advertise on a couple of different platforms, mainly Facebook and through Google pay-per-click. And anyone who knows me well in this room knows that, like our dear friend Ian, I may have been a sailor in a past life, so I will try to keep the colorful language that is my vernacular to an absolute zero during this presentation, but apologies in advance. As a prerequisite to talking to you today, I have spent a metric blank ton of money on some things that work and many, many things that don't. And I hope to save you some time and money, and thank you for letting me speak to you this morning. My goal is not, as Sarah said, to overwhelm you with a bunch of things that you can do, but hopefully give you nuggets for things that you can take some action on. So could I have a show of hands of who does create content right now for social media and who has aspirations to create content? Wonderful. Okay. So my question to you to consider internally is, what is your why behind wanting to create content? I want you to consider that and think about that as we move through this presentation, because that is the most important driving factor in your ability to continue to do it. And I do want to caveat this entire thing to say that none of this matters if we're not doing the basics. I know that everyone in this room is doing the basics of committing to being the best at being a real estate agent, answering your phone quickly for inbound calls, hopefully on the first ring, calling people back who don't, who you miss, and communicating with the people that already know, like, and trust you on a consistent basis, and committing to follow up. Without those things, content doesn't matter. And the goal of content is one thing. It's to drive conversations, just as anything else we do in the real estate business, right? The goal is always conversations. So just because you're not talking directly to a person and you're talking to a camera, when you're creating content and shooting video and writing copy, doesn't mean it will exempt you from having to talk to people on the phone or via text or in person that you have never talked to before. The whole goal is to talk to people that you've never talked to before. All right, sorry about that. So, moving into why content matters, the most important thing that I can stress to you today is that it's leverage. It's putting yourself to work when you're not doing it actively. If you can make 1,000 of you and they can go out and communicate with people, then that sounds like a really, really good use of your time. And I'm going to go over a couple of seriously opinionated things during this presentation, and just take those with a grain of salt, but also just consider that. We do follow a lot of real estate agents as realtors ourselves, right? And we'll see folks repost with no context things from, like, Keeping Current Matters. While it is technically content, reposting someone else's content, we have to really deeply consider what our audience is going to see when we post things. And just posting a graph and statistics, people do not care. They want your opinion, they want you, they want to see you. And even if they don't want to see you, they need to see you in order to build that rapport without talking to them in person. Video content can be significantly useful beyond posting to social media. And in fact, my first big tip of the day is that one-to-one video communication, that's something that we do very consistently with clients and especially with prospects who have ghosted us, is sending video messages personalized to each individual. That gets re-engagement from someone who hasn't engaged with us so well. That's done really well for all of my coaching clients with Samson Plus as well. In fact, it's like 30% of people who ghost us and were never going to talk to us again will in fact start to have that conversation again. So moving into the basics of content creation, I've already covered that people don't know what the heck you're talking about unless you tell them. So you can't just post statistics and graphs. You can't assume that their vernacular is the same as yours. I was building an agent training for my team, and part of it was a real estate glossary for either some of the newer agents or maybe agents who haven't been in the business in a while. The sheer number of acronyms that we use as real estate agents is insane. Just off the cuff, it was like 70. I don't think anyone who's not in this business knows a single thing about what we're talking about if we say COE, close of escrow, or even CMA, comparative market analysis, or CD, closing disclosure, all these things, right? We have to be sure that we're talking in clear language that people are going to understand so that they can get the point of the content that you're creating. It is a feedback loop. So as you venture into this, you will see that certain things perform better than others. And that is your audience talking to you, telling you what they want to see more of, and you should listen to them. To backtrack a little bit, there are 4 core ways that we can go about generating sales in any business. This doesn't just apply to real estate. We can have one-to-one warm conversations. We can have one-to-one cold conversations. We can have one-to-many, essentially not paid content. And then we can have one-to-many paid, which would be paid advertising. This deals with one of the 4 key ways to go about getting business. And this is the longest, potentially least expensive in the long run, but also the hardest to pursue. As far as a general rule for content, I don't want you to consider too intently how long something is. And we'll get into format of video, short form and long form later. But I want you to understand with a long form video, there's no such thing as too long, only too boring, right? If there's a 3-hour movie that we all know and love, I mean, Braveheart, right? We're all going to watch the entire thing, right? Whereas if it's 3 hours of proofs in discrete mathematics and I don't know anything about how to do discrete mathematics, I might completely tune out, and it might be great for helping with insomnia, right? Couple other baseline things. Polished content, like in a studio, doesn't necessarily work as well as raw on every platform. Sometimes that in the sweatpants look without having done your hair, Arturo, actually performs better because it's really authentic, right? Attention is the currency of video content. It is important to grab attention without being too sensational, but we need to commit to the fact that it's going to be a little cheesy. It's going to be a little cheesy. And thumbnails, which are what people see when they're scrolling through YouTube, scrolling through your Instagram profile, as the first look at your video, should be attention grabbing in some way, shape, or form, but they should also be confirmed immediately in the video. If you have a thumbnail that shows you touring a house, the first thing that they see when they click on that video should be the house that you were showing in the thumbnail. That is the number one most important thing for people to stay on the video. They don't want to click on something that they think is one thing and be taken a completely different direction. But to wrap that part up, all in all, it is all about conversations. All of this, the entire intention is to generate conversations with people, talk to people you've never talked to before, talk to them about real estate, and get some deals. Let's see. Here we are. I'm going to share with you a framework that was taught to me that is extremely useful for creating videos, and I actually have a tool on this later. It's called the CUTE framework. Has anyone heard of that? Okay, so it's CUUUTE, CUTE. And it is perfect for the short form video, less than 90 seconds, generally less than 60 seconds. C stands for a controversial hook. A hook would be the most important part of the video after confirming the thumbnail. It's saying something to keep people on your video. Attention is currency, and keeping their attention through the rest of the video is what builds the relationship. So that controversial hook should be emotionally charged in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't have to be like politically controversial or anything like that, but it should start off in some way to make people think, right? So I have an example of that here, and there are hundreds of thousands of examples that you could think of off of the top of your head. But a simple one would be, did you know that most home buyers lose thousands of dollars because they don't know this one secret, right? You see things like this all the time in thumbnails and titles, but people then start asking themselves, well, what's the stinking secret? And then they're going to continue watching the video, right? So the first U is useful. It should provide clear, actionable, and valuable advice to the audience in some way, shape, or form. The second U would be a unique perspective. This comes back to that not sharing statistics directly with people because they don't understand or necessarily care about them. They want your opinion because they're coming to you, a local real estate agent, for that opinion. It should create some sense of urgency by highlighting the importance of acting quickly, whether that's to contact you. And just to backtrack a little bit, these are in order. You shouldn't start the video with urgency. It should come a little bit later. That is the third U, urgency. T would be trends or trendy references. We all know that there's things going on in the news that everybody's thinking about. We also know that there are trends on particular social media platforms. And whether it's actually participating in the trend or nodding to the trend, it should mention something that's current, because that's going to keep your engagement and people are going to know that it was recent. And then finally, E is for entertaining. It should entertain in some way, shape, or form, whether that's a small bout of humor interjected into the content or the entire thing is in an entertaining format. So just to review, and I will have more on this later, but the CUTE framework is controversial hook, useful, unique, urgency, trends, and entertaining. At the very end, we've created a GPT that we will share with all of you for free called Viral Video Maker. You type your prompts into this, and everything that it goes through is based on this CUTE framework, and I'd be happy to share that with anybody who reaches out. So let's dive in a little bit to types of videos, and then I'll give some opinions after we've talked about this laundry list of types of videos. There can be short and long form. Short form today is mostly considered under 90 seconds. Under 60 seconds is probably a more accurate definition. In excess of 15 seconds. And then long form would be probably anything over about 5 minutes at this point, just with current attention spans and the way they are. Many of these things can be applied to both short and long form, but I'll make a verbal note if they can't. So we have property tours. Those perform really well as short form videos. Has anyone seen speed tours? Speed tours are hilarious, but that's a form of property tour, and it absolutely follows the CUTE framework. Or you can do longer form property tours going into all of the details of a particular property, and people find that entertaining as well. News reactions. We'll we'll get into this on the technical side, but green screen with a news article behind you talking about a current trend. Fantastic form of video because you already have base real estate knowledge and you can have an opinion on real estate news. And people want to understand your perspective on it, especially someone who's boots on the ground in their area, right? They don't want a California real estate agent's perspective on what's happening in Virginia. They want yours because you're here. Videos can be long-form educational, and they can be pedagogical. They can be tutorial for how to do certain things or informative about the real estate process. Another really great performing video for the local real estate agent is a behind-the-scenes, day-in-the-life type video. People are actually interested in your lives. I don't know why anybody interested in my life, for instance, but they want to know what's going on behind the scenes. They want to know what you do day to day. They want to know what you're up to, and they want to connect with you as a person, and that is an important type of video to do so. There's pure promotional content, call to action style content. This does not usually work as a long form video unless you're talking about an event that's coming up and covering what's going to be talked about. It's going to be a particularly long event. That's typically a short form video, but it would be informative and maybe slightly entertaining to tell people about what's coming up, and that's most often used as a paid advertisement. Does anyone live stream? Yeah, live stream's great because you have instant feedback from your audience that's talking to you and interacting with you. On the more informational side, market statistics can be something that you share an opinion on that's not necessarily news, just a consistent update. And that can be taken from a national perspective, which is important for macroeconomic trends, but also on a hyper-local perspective. So you could talk about the capital region as a whole, you could talk about the Northern Virginia region, or you could talk about a particular neighborhood and what's going on in that particular subdivision, and it's relevant to the people that live there or the people that want to move there. In the same vein, you can do a neighborhood spotlight that has nothing to do with statistics and can be particularly evergreen, unless there's a major change in the neighborhood, but spotlighting a neighborhood, talking about the features and amenities, and showing it off, using that for the people that you have going to a particular neighborhood. And then there's a type of video called Talking Head. I'm sure many of you have heard that before. That is you on a background, not necessarily a green screen, where you are talking. You're the talking head, just like the news. And you have a lot of license to do a lot of different things here with a talking head style video. You can tell personal stories, give your perspective. Nightmares in real estate is a great idea. Something that you've run into that's, crazy story that you might tell this room, right? But the public would like to hear that as well. It could be something just purely informative, something highly opinionated, and then another form of talking head video that tends to be very useful beyond posting on social media is quick tips, say quick tips for home buyers or a particular part of the process, or quick tips for house prep that it's a particular part of the process. I'll talk about distribution of that a little bit later. And then another that's not you, that is very, very useful in creating video content, or testimonial videos from your clients, especially the ones that love you. We wouldn't want to interview the ones that don't unless it was for a comedy sketch. But either way, I encourage you guys to, something that is well repeated in the Tom Ferry ecosystem is R&D. Rip off and duplicate. I encourage you to find content creators, especially those out of area who you're not competing directly with. Not that I feel like there's competition locally. There's enough for all of us to eat, but especially out of area for the high performers in given markets. And you can look at what's working for them and try it for yourself and then judge if it works for you in this particular area, right? Find 5, 10, 15 different real estate agents or content creators around real estate on the particular platform that you're focused on. See what they're doing, see what works, and pay attention to the minutia of the content that they're creating. Look at the words and emojis that they're using in the captions. Look at the way that their thumbnails appear, and then look at the background and the actual content and what they're saying and how they're saying it, their intonation. All of these things are important for how people perceive video content, engage with it, and want to continue to interact with it. As aforementioned, the realtor space on social media is kind of crowded, and a majority of it is very generic. And if nothing else, I'd like to encourage you to avoid making content that is generic. And final point on that is try to stay in your lane as much as possible. If you're a real estate agent that focuses on a particular niche, talk about that. It doesn't matter if the views are lower, if it's connecting with people more. Try not to be an expert on things that you're not an expert on, even if you're calling yourself one. And that goes hand in hand with that news reaction style video. Let's keep it to real estate because that's what people are going to you for, right? All right, let's talk about tools, tech, and implementation. I think we're all in this room aware of AI and how it can help us, and language models and how they can assist in creation of content. What I don't think we're at yet, this is a personal opinion, is where we can just type a prompt into AI and use it directly. I think we need to personalize it a little bit more than that. And that's true for the GPT that I would share with you guys. Please make it your own, but also understand that simpler language is better. The language that tends to connect with people the most as a whole would be that of a 5th grade reading level. Some pretty basic tech that we use. We like DJI. I see that Arturo has one here at Osmo Gimbal. That's extremely useful for walking around content. It also has a tripod to set up for selfie style content or using the back-facing camera. They also make a lapel mic that is very good. Not inexpensive, but not like studio quality expensive stuff, right? As far as teleprompters are concerned, I wanted to make a note on that. You can have an iPad-based teleprompter that has a mirror with a camera behind it, like a DSLR type camera. That's a pretty expensive setup. You don't need it, but if you want it, it's great. Any type of teleprompter you're using, whether that's CapCut editing software has a selfie-based teleprompter and it has eye correction, make sure that you're forcing yourself to smile, because otherwise you just look like, what does that say? Right? So make sure that you're aware of how your face looks when you're reading off of a particular script, because one, if you're squinting too much to struggle to read the teleprompter, that will show up very obviously in the video, and any eye correction software that you use afterwards won't work properly. It'll look kind of funky. And two, your facial expression is going to be spread over the internet, and you don't want to look condescending or mean to anybody that's going to see your video, right? And that tends to be how our face ends up contorting when we're reading. There's a software that we use called 11 Labs. It's relatively inexpensive. What you do is you'll record a 3 to 5 minute reading of a script. It'll capture your voice, and then if you want to do a voiceover overlay, you can just type out what you want to say, and it will be pretty darn near your voice. And it's very useful for creating content very quickly with a voiceover. Please. Does that work in a different language? I believe they have several languages set up. It depends on which language you'd be referring to. I know they have like the Germanic and Romantic languages set up. I'm not sure if they have anything too much beyond that at the moment. Setting up a full studio is something that you can do. It's both more expensive and less expensive than I personally thought. If you'd like a consultant to assess that for you, I have somebody that I can share with you. And something that you can do with your editing software is either professionally or selfie style shoot the beginnings and ends to the videos that you're shooting, right? So every video should introduce you after the controversial hook. It should introduce you and who you are, because each video may be the absolute first time that someone is seeing you and they have no idea about your story and who you are. It should be like a one-sentence elevator pitch. That's something that you could record once and use on multiple different things. And the same is true for the call to action at the end of your short or long form videos. That is not something that you need to film necessarily every single time. If you have an end goal for them to reach out to you, that is something that you could record once and put on the end of your videos each time. I want to stress that content marketing and putting in a lot of effort for this is a long game strategy. And I urge you to pick a single platform, probably the one where your audience already is. Many of us, that's our personal Facebook, and that's really fine, because our goal here is to connect with the people that already follow us, at least at the very outset of this. But I urge you to work on and master a single platform and have like superhuman consistency with posting on that platform before moving on to distributing it elsewhere. And kind of the reason behind this is that each platform is nuanced, and what performs well on one doesn't necessarily perform well on multiple. So you really do have to become an expert in each particular platform for it to perform really well. Also, it's good practice. You're getting better on video, and you're getting better with the back end of creating the content. And then it's easier to create quality content for additional platforms when you've mastered one. At the outset of your content journey, perfect is the enemy of done. Further along, perfect is not the enemy of done. Quality really matters when you're trying to grow to a significant audience. But at the very outset of this, I really urge you to just get started. There's no way to get better without doing, right? And you may find as you pursue this that the direction and the subject of your content change rapidly and very significantly, because you're finding what works from that feedback loop. You're finding what your audience likes. Don't question that. Just go with what works and get really good at it. I do, over time, as you pursue this, encourage outsourcing what you can to people who are experts in their respective areas. It is more expensive, but it's better to hire a video editor than sitting there for hours trying to figure out how to edit a video, when our best use of our time for money-making activity is talking to people and selling real estate. Because that's really the end goal of this thing, is not to sit there and be the best video editor. It's to be a better real estate agent with more clients. This absolutely can be a full-time job. If you see someone who's local with 60, 70,000 followers or more, they probably have a team. They probably have a videographer, an editor in-house, in person, sometimes remote. But this can scale really quickly into something where you're talking about paying salaries. Decide for you, back to that question at the beginning, what the end goal of this for you is, why you're doing it, and just how much effort you want to put into it. In regards to a particular platform, take Instagram, for example, there are significant changes to what performs well, how often you're posting, and how their algorithm reacts to that. Sometimes as often as a daily basis, often weekly and monthly. So you have to really keep a pulse on what's working. And the amount of content that you're thinking about posting is probably not enough. Someone might say, well, I'd like to start with once a day. And I would agree that that's a great start. But the experts say that 5 to 10 times a day when growing an account of unique video content, that is 300 different videos in a month, short form content for Instagram Reels, would be necessary to pull the plane out of the nosedive that is, or rather flat, and climb. When do you abandon the idea of a single platform? Well, again, that kind of comes back to your particular goal with it. Is your goal local notoriety and making it easier for people to recognize you when you walk into listing appointments? Well, then you might move on to additional platforms so that you have more people seeing your face. But if your goal is literally close deals from it, I would just look at what it's paying you. If it's efficient and it's a profit margin that you're based on what you're spending on creating the content, including your time, and it's worth pursuing another platform, then I would move on to another platform. But otherwise, it really just depends on your particular goals, and happy to dive in individually with anybody on that. So sort of a recap of what we just talked about. My first thing here is a call to action. I really want you to make something and post it if you haven't. There's no better way to get comfortable behind a camera, and it's honestly simultaneously more intimidating and less intimidating than talking to a room full of people, because you're not looking anybody directly in the eye, but also you're not looking anybody directly in the eye. You're looking into this lens. I want to also mention that if you want content to pay you, you have to invest in it. Now, to start, don't let that stop you, right? All you need is a phone. We all have phones. It has a camera. You can shoot content today. We have this idea, and I think it goes back to our very ancient brains, that we buy things like gadgets and courses, and our brains seek dopamine, and that purchase of a gadget or a course releases dopamine, and we think we accomplished something. But the implementation of the purchase of that gadget and use of it, or the implementation of the purchase of a course and use of it, is what's actually going to get you results, not just the dopamine hit from moving forward with a purchase. Content creation makes you a more polished speaker, both on and off camera. Makes you a better presenter. It makes you better in your listing appointments. It makes you better presenting to buyers of all these new and interesting rules that we have to discuss with them. And improvement is what makes humans great, and therefore content makes you a better person. Just joking. But I really can't stress to you enough that all you need is a phone with a camera on it. You don't need to buy a bunch of fancy stuff. You should, as you pursue it and as you progress. But don't let anything stop you from getting started if it's something you want to pursue. So I really hope that if it is a goal of yours, that you get started like today, like this afternoon. All right, folks. That's all I have. I have a lot of time for question and answer, so I want to dive into anything that you guys wanted to dive into.
I would like to think that my videos I want them to be shared more, so that's seen more. Mm-hmm. But from the sharing, I want appointments. So in my mind, they go hand in hand.
Okay. So
but pick one. I don't even care.
Let me try to give you some perspective, because they don't necessarily go hand in hand the way you're thinking they do. If you have a really niche business, not real estate, right? Any example of a really, really niche business, you help a small amount of people. Well, your audience growth, even percentage-wise, may not look like someone who sells financial services and insurance, or any number of really broad businesses that a lot of people do, including real estate, right? There are Instagram accounts out there with 1,000 followers that make millions more money than people with 100,000 followers. So it's not necessarily tied hand in hand. Quality of engagement from your audience is important. And I'm glad you said shares, because for virality, for increasing your reach and increasing your following count, shares are the most important metric.
Right, yeah.
100%. Mm-hmm. I kind of suggest that if your goal is to increase your number of closings, the only metric you look at is dollars in the bank account that you can directly attribute to people that wouldn't have seen you otherwise from social media. And whether that means that someone in a listing appointment mentioned it, hey, I saw you online and that's why I called you, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to attribute to that.
Yeah.
Or it's someone who DM'd you and said, hey, I was thinking about, what my home's worth, and then it's a long-term sort of nurture situation, and they transact with
Sure.
you down the road.
So to piggyback on that, and I'm sorry if anybody else had a question, but to piggyback on that point, if that's your end game, that's an easy tell, right? I know how that worked out for me. What if that's not what's happening? And I know, you want to play to your niche, and you want to make sure that you're getting the information that you want out to those people, but because of the nature of real estate, those people may not be ready, willing, and able to buy, or whatever the situation
Sure.
is. So how am I know that, because you've said, more isn't necessarily better, but it kind of, when you're trying to grow your market share, right? I feel like that's the best way for me to gauge if my social media is working, but those people may not all need to buy or sell.
Right.
So maybe they just want to know about the interest rates or whatever the situation is. So engagement, in my head, engagement would be the way to gauge that.
It's a tough question because there are local to Northern Virginia real estate accounts with a ton of followers and wonderful engagement as far as the standards are concerned, and they don't sell a fraction of what they should, right? So, and that's because their end goal is virality, a local audience, and to sell them secondary services or sell their information, right? So it's a totally different goal. If I'm looking to increase market share, the lagging indicator KPI is market share, right? But I guess I could give you some prescriptive advice. What platform are we talking about?
I'd like to think Instagram. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
how's the follower count?
Well, we just looked at our numbers and we increased, it's not a whole lot.
It's okay.
It was like 600 and some followers. I mean, we're just starting, just getting going.
Sure.
No excuses, but anyway, but it increased because, it shows you the insights. I don't know if I even believe them, but it says it was like 18%. So I'm like, what are we looking, do we want to try to stay at 20? So we're in the last 28 days. So how do you feel about that? Do you think that those are real numbers?
Of course, yeah. No, the numbers are real, and the proportions matter a little more as you grow your following count.
Right.
What I would then ask is, how's your posting consistency?
We post every day.
Is it okay?
We don't have a lot of engagement.
When's the last time you missed a day? Okay. All right. Well, wonderful. I would increase the number of times you're posting per day.
Right. So, God, I'm so sorry, y'all. So to that end,
we have time.
If you increase to, what did you say, 5 to 10? Do you find that people stop engaging and start scrolling through? Because that's what we have experienced.
Okay, so the nature of Reels is sort of a shotgun approach. You're not looking for, at your size, you're not looking for additional engagement from your current audience. Right. That'll come. What you're looking for is one of those videos to take off. That's what matters, right? Because then you increase your audience. And I would try to make sure that the content you are posting is locally focused, because you can be really controversial about a national trend and get followers. That audience is practically useless to you. Right. But what you're looking for is new followers and new engagement, and so that's why that level of content. And you scale back to what ends up working. You'll figure it out.
Gotcha.
Right.
So you're just kind of sampling with 5 to 10. Once you realize what your tribe is really interested in, that's when you focus on those things.
Right. And it's almost like you can't know unless you increase the volume to that insane level. Right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Cool. Anyone else? Sure. Hold on. Microphone.
I want to make, Heather and I are back here having a side conversation, so apologize for anybody that we're disrupting back here. But one of the things that Austin talked about that I want to draw attention to is the fact that those people are posting 5, 10, 15 times a day, right? That's a lot. Does that scare anybody? Right. When are you going to sell real estate? Well, the other thing, what the hell are you going to talk about? Like, so, sorry. See, I broke your rule. You were going to not cuss and I cussed. But the point is that we just have to start once. Yeah. And, you know, and I know Austin's going to cringe a little bit when I say this. Like, if you post once a week and because you've never posted before, kudos. Yeah. And then, you know, in a couple of weeks when you get really comfortable posting once a week, let's try twice a week, right? Let's take the wins. We have to start somewhere. We can work up to doing a little more, building a repertoire of, big word, of, you know, in the can, right? As Justin talked about earlier, of putting all of these things on deck that we can post later, having all of that B-roll that we can drop into videos or social media content, taking things and chopping it up. We may do an hour interview with a client testimonial or something and do sound bites that we're popping the sound bites out. There's a lot of things that we can do. We just have to start somewhere. So don't get locked up in the 5 times a day post or you know, we're talking back here. Our conversation is we don't post enough. We need to post more. It's scary and it's content and we have a day job, right? So all of those things key in, but we just have to start somewhere.
I ask that whatever you decide to do, and once a week is fine to start, that you never miss a week. Whatever you start doing, you can't stop doing because people start expecting, and you're going to lose engagement in your audience if you miss. It's the same advice, prescriptive advice that I will give to coaching clients. They say, I want to start a newsletter, whether it's physical or email. Okay, well, let's start a little bit small and ramp up because whatever you do start doing, that's it. Rest of your career, never missing again. I don't care what happens.
And
so
it's
the same thing with
it's the same thing with the Tuesday tidbits for those of you that get those emails from me.
Like when Sarah sends out 25 at once.
I send out, well, the days that I over schedule, right? Do you think I get up every morning at 8 o'clock and send out the Tuesday tidbit? Yes, I do. No, I'm just totally kidding. I schedule 2 or 3 months of those in advance. Now, sometimes I overlap and schedule 2 on the same day. Sorry, that's just an extra dose of data. But to the point now where I have done that for so many years every Tuesday that if I miss a Tuesday tidbit, people email me and say, I didn't get your Tuesday tidbit. Are you dead? Right? People expect consistency and they start looking for it. And that's their connection with you to check in with you and make sure that you're okay. That consistency is so, so key.
Going back to kind of your thing is, for me, it helps to think the end goal first when I'm making the content. So sharing, if I want someone to share, if I want to get leads, buyer leads, sell, like all of those things are different. So I think about the end. Am I getting buyer leads? Do I want seller leads? And then I'm making the content based on that. So it helps you kind of go around everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if your goal is virality and more shares, have that in mind and ask for it in your content. Or have a reason for them to send it to additional people because they find it entertaining, because they find it extremely interesting, because they find it relevant, right? And you can ask for it as well. It's on.
Where do you post all of these, other than
me personally?
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of paid advertising.
Okay.
It's through the Meta platforms. And then we use video a ton for internal processes for clients. Explainer videos for steps of the process that goes out via email every time. Okay. Training within our team. A lot of my use of video content is just like small audience, highly directed video content. Yeah. And in fact, a version of our listing presentation we've shot in video, and we send that before we go to the house.
But as for an agent, where all can we put this? If we are doing 4 or 5 a day, I mean,
sure,
Facebook and things would be overwhelmed with all that information.
Not necessarily, especially if you're posting it to a business page.
Right.
So on Facebook, it'd be a business page. On Instagram, it'd be a business page. On YouTube, it'd be shorts or long-form content. 5 or 10 long-form YouTube videos a day. Not even a news company can do that. Not for a single show, anyway. Could be TikTok. Well, for 2 more days.
Get that.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
But
Instagram, YouTube, and
just
Facebook,
pick a platform where you have some traction. Yeah. Or if you don't have one that has some traction, pick the one that you like to use the best, because that's the one you're going to use, right?
Yeah.
And that actually matters. We have to want to do it.
I mean, like I have 1,000 on Facebook, my Facebook business page.
Great spot.
That's a
Yeah, and don't focus on 5 to 10 a day. That's a ramp up. But
no.
yeah,
I
yeah.
do 1 or 2 a week right now is all.
Well, and if you're consistent with that, try 3 a week. And then do that for a while, right?
Okay, great.
But yeah, pick where your audience is.
Okay.
If you have an existing one.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, last point on that. Yeah. That's where you're going to have the most feedback. Where you have existing people, and that'll tell you what's working, right?
Do you have a software that you use for like AI software to break up long form into shorts? And then second question is, when you mention the one-on-one videos to your clients, are you using Bonbon? Are you doing it straight from your iPhone? What are you using for those one-on-one personal videos?
Okay, so I'm going to answer the second question first. A lot of it we embed unlisted on YouTube, and then we have them built into web pages as embedded YouTube videos. So you can't search for it, but it's a great hosting software. BombBomb is something that we do for sort of one-offs. That's usually from a webcam, and especially for stuff with screen share, we use Loom, Loom. That's a relatively inexpensive product, and it has viewing metrics to make sure that the client received and viewed the video. To answer your question about AI for chopping, I have a staff. I don't know. Honestly, they're not great. Yeah, I typically work with my marketing guy to chop up what I want, and VAs are great for this. Outsourced labor they are excellent at this stuff if you find the right person.
I have a question about your business page. So for instance, Facebook, your business page and your personal page. I have tons of people on my personal page, but not as many on my business page. And my daughter helps me. So she always wants to post only on the business page. And I'm like, share it to the damn personal page because that's where all my people are. How do you, what's best that way?
Don't approach your personal Facebook with a business frequency. Do not expect them to respond well to a post every day, but absolutely engage your well-engaged personal Facebook audience with real estate content. It's your life. You're in real estate. They know that. You want them to continue to know that. It is important to engage with those folks about real estate. And
so is that like the 80-20 thing then? Is that what you're more talking about?
Buckets and sort of ratios are gone. Include it when you feel like it, when you think it's valuable. And that could be every day if it is. Just don't have a plan to post every day to your personal Facebook page with a reel because people will stop caring.
And then how do you get the people from your personal page to like your business
You can
page?
actually invite them to like it. That's a function on business pages. You can have it direct message your Facebook friends to invite them to like it. You can also post and encourage them to. You could ask your past clients to like it because that's where you post updates. But they have to have a reason to want to like your business page. There has to be something there for them to get, right? Otherwise, it's just a favor to you. Yeah. Someone to R&D who's in the room, who's excellent at their personal Facebook is the bearded broker right there. Open-ended questions, always getting engagement from his personal followers. In fact, I engage all the time with Sam's content, Arturo as well. But you tie in real estate, don't you, Sam?
Yeah, I've posted some real estate stuff, but not very much.
Not much, but enough where it feels right. Yeah.
Yeah, just when it feels right. I don't want it to be a commercial all the time. You know?
Right.
I want people to be able to see silly stuff and look at what I had for dinner and check out this puppy and let's go buy a house.
But you're not a secret agent.
No.
Yeah.
But I just do the engagement questions just to force people to engage.
Yeah.
So then the algorithm says everybody wants to see what Sam posts. So then when I do post something real estate, everybody sees it.
Right.
But the engagement when I post real estate is super low, but I know they're seeing it.
They are viewing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please DM me on Instagram at Monumental Agent. I will share with you the GPT that we had created and anything else that you have any questions on. Please just go ahead and DM me.